All right, before we get to this, the
Mm.
latest escalation between the trade war between US and China, just quickly, this is the second week has passed for the shutdown of the US government. There is no ending in sight,
No,
it seems.
no, no.
So where are we going? We just keep on having, my understanding, the latest one is some military people, personnel are not getting paid or something.
Yeah, yeah.
They just keep on shutting it down. It,
This is what I find absolutely extraordinary about this, because we have the president of the United States who continues to lead the United States and doesn't seem to be aware or care very much about the fact that he presides over a government that is progressively shutting down. I mean, there is something very surreal about this whole situation. There's a lot that's very surreal about lots of things in the West at the moment, but this is perhaps
Mhm.
the weirdest one of all, because he goes off to the Middle East, he claims
Yeah.
victory,
Uh-huh.
which I can't
Yeah.
really see how he can claim that, but anyway, he does. He is going to meet Zelensky today, and the Ukrainian leader. He's going to make all kinds of grand plans and strategies. And, even as he talks about this, the ground underneath him is collapsing. I mean,
Mhm.
that's how it looks to me. I mean, and he's now in a situation where he's escalating with Ukraine, as we will
Mhm.
come to, no doubt.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But more important and pressing still, he has an economic crisis on his hands,
Yeah.
because the trade
Mhm.
dispute with China is a massive economic crisis. You would have thought
Mhm.
that in these circumstances, the United States would want to get its own house in order and its government up and running again,
Yeah.
because you need to do that if you are going to actually deal with the other most powerful, well, in fact, what is probably the most powerful and best
Mhm.
organized government on
Mhm.
earth. So, I mean, the whole thing is most strange, and it demonstrates again how detached from reality I think many Western governments now have become, if I have to be honest.
Yeah, the Congress is not much better. The Congress is not in
No,
session. They should. This
yeah,
doesn't affect them. They are the one
no,
who's supposed to
no,
work on reopen the government.
yeah,
But instead, they have their days off. They are
no.
everybody
I mean,
left.
they're not interested. People are losing their jobs. Their situation is going from getting into crisis. It's going to have more and more effects across the economy as well. And the president doesn't care, and
Yeah,
Congress doesn't care.
yeah.
And as I said, they come up with all these grand strategies and enormous plans and make all these boastful speeches and worry about the Nobel Peace Prize, which is a ridiculous thing to worry about. And as I said, that within their own country, their own government isn't working. As I said,
Yeah.
it's very, very strange. And as you rightly said, there is no end in sight, and one doesn't get the sense that anybody is interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the biggest crises now, I think, is this trade escalation between US and China. Just so you know, I put a background. Today's background is Wuxi. I told you I'm from I'm born. I was born in Shanghai, but my dad is from Wuxi, so I'm kind of a Wuxiner. The reason
Yeah.
I put it in the in the background is there's a very important rare earth processing company located not far from this
Mm,
picture. So
yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah.
So the whole thing, according to Trump, is out of the blue. There is nothing out of blue. He knows what he's
No.
doing. You using the word slice the salami. They have been
Yeah.
doing that. There's
Yeah.
supposed to be a ceasefire, right? That
Yeah.
they agreed until November 10th, they will negotiate. And during that time, everybody's assumption is there should be a ceasefire.
Yeah.
They put in place some
Yeah.
tariffs that both sides find reasonable, and that should be it. And then they should
Yeah.
negotiate.
Yeah.
But since then, the US has never stopped like sanction more companies, and they always have excuses, whether it's Iran, whether it's the drug problem in the US, what have you. And then, of course, the put in the heavy fee for port fees for all the China-made ships. And I do think, this is personal, I do think the last straw is this Trump not allowing Chinese airlines flying over Russia. I think
Yeah.
that's where China, like, that's it. Because this
Yeah.
has absolutely nothing to do with China,
No. No.
right? But it does
Yeah.
caught them off guard, it seems like.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. The other thing was the seizure in the Netherlands
Uh-huh.
of a Dutch-owned
Yeah.
semiconductor company,
Uh-huh.
which came out of nowhere. This company has done absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It's been providing jobs to people in the Netherlands. The United States wasn't happy about it. It started to put pressure on the Netherlands, and the Dutch authorities incredibly just went in and seized it and came up again with all sorts of bogus explanations as to why they had done it. So it's one thing after another. Salami slicing. It's, by the way, not my expression. It's a common expression, but I mean, I did use it to describe this. And this has been going on and on and on. And as I said, I think China said enough's enough. And there was a big article, by the way, about all of this in the Financial Times, which said again that the US is going to lose this round. And they made the point again that with American restrictions on technologies to China, China has repeatedly shown that it has the ability to work out what it needs to do and will continue to do that. The United States has had 15 years to get itself sorted on rare earths, and it has done nothing. In that time, it has done absolutely nothing. And it's true. And Trump has been president for, what, almost a year now. And he's still done nothing about it in all of that time. He's done this deal with Zelensky, remember the minerals deal with Zelensky? Remember that? But I mean, he's done absolutely nothing. And sooner or later, the Americans will have to climb down. But you're absolutely right. There was supposed to be a ceasefire and negotiations. And the Americans have been steadily trying to move the dial. They've been using the ceasefires. They always do. By the way, they do this all the time. The Russians also became absolutely fed up with this. They constantly try to move things in their favor. And the president himself, he clearly wants it that way.
The flying over Russia space thing, it affects me. I'm flying from Dallas to Beijing. I do take Air China, and that's the main reason is it's cheaper and shorter because there is a direct flight, and it is shorter because they can fly over Russia. Even though it's short, probably 1.5 hours, it doesn't sound like long, but when you have a long flight, it make a difference, right? Because I think if you fly 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe not that big a difference. But if you fly 13 hours after, I think for me, after 8, 9 hours, every hour to me is a torture. So extra 1 hour is a lot of work for me. It's a lot of suffering for me. So that's why I take the China airline. So it's actually, we will see. I will have a trip, going to China. So we will see. It's going to be longer. I already bought my ticket, so we will see. But anyway.
Well, can I say I completely share your views. I cannot stand long haul flights. I mean, I'm also the wrong shape for them. I mean, if you're an economy seat on a 14-hour flight, it is agony.
Yes.
I mean, I always find it agony. I mean, it's grueling. I mean, for those who can afford business class, then it's not such a problem. But for everyone else, it absolutely is. And again, it's got nothing to do with China. If the United States has a quarrel with Russia, that's a problem for them. But why China should be punished because the US has taken it upon itself not to allow its airlines to fly over Russia because it was the US that initiated that one. Well, I really can't understand. And by the way, the other thing is, I mean, port fees on Chinese-built ships. Not even Chinese ships, but Chinese-built ships. What's that all about? We all know that America doesn't make any ships anymore, to all intents and purposes. China has a mighty shipbuilding industry. And so you're going to try and punish people around the world for buying ships that are made in China when really, to all intents and purposes now, there's very little choice. Everybody has to buy Chinese ships because the big shipbuilding works that used to happen in Japan and South Korea, they've all basically dwindled away. It's incredible that the Americans do this, and they get outraged when China responds. I always say this: they never seem to wake up to the possibility that others might do to them
Oh, yeah.
what they
Yeah.
feel they have the right to
Yeah.
do to others. So they're furious about this.
Mhm.
And you get this extraordinary statement from Scott Bessent that China wants to drag the whole world down with it, which is ridiculous. I mean, but again, it shows you the sense of entitlement
Mhm.
that these people have. And well, I think we are heading in that direction because the United States cannot accept that China is this mighty industrial
Mhm.
power, and that China is getting richer, and the people of China. It's ultimately what this is all about: is stopping China from
Developing.
becoming
Mhm.
stopping in its tracks China's economic and social progress,
Yeah.
which is a wicked thing, an
Yeah.
evil thing in
Mhm.
itself, and it's going to fail.
It used to they will deny that. They will say, "Oh, this is not about national security. This is," but I don't think they deny that anymore. I
No,
think they, in terms of the port fee, they pretty much said we wanted to build our own, to weaken Chinese shipbuilding. They even
yeah,
said that. And with the airline flying, they said, well, there's a Chinese airline has a competitive advantage. So it's not even like national security or anything. They don't even find
no,
excuses for that. So
no,
it's yeah. But
absolutely,
the airspace thing, I think only the Europeans and the US actually banned the Russian
yeah.
airlines. I think the rest of the world is fine.
Well,
Um,
that's right.
and why doesn't Trump? Trump always said, "Oh, I have good relationship with President Putin." Blah blah.
Yeah,
How about some concrete actions like lifting the ban, which doesn't
yeah,
affect the Ukraine war at all? It's a
no,
civilian, right,
no.
airline. Why doesn't he lift that ban? I don't
Well, it
understand.
did. I mean, the Russians have proposed it any number of times. Ever since Trump became president,
Uh-huh.
the Russians have said to the Americans, look, this is the one thing that we can all do, that we
Yeah,
can all agree upon. It'll be nice, good for you, good for us. It will make things easier for you and for us. Um, and it isn't going to make any fundamental difference to the overall economic situation or the military situation. It just makes life easier for people, ordinary people. And the United States could have done that, but no, they won't do it. And I suspect the reason they won't do it, again, I come back to what I always say: this isn't even about Russia anymore at the end of the day. Everything in the US is about China. They
mhm,
won't lift restrictions on flights to Russia, which is entirely of their own making. To
yeah,
repeat again, in when this was done back in February 2022, it was the Western powers that initiated it. It's the
yeah,
Western powers that banned
mhm,
flights to Russia,
yeah,
both American and European airlines flying to Russia. And this never involved anyone else. The rest of the world is perfectly happy to fly to Russia.
mhm,
The rest of the world, there's no reason not to
yeah.
want to fly to Russia. So they could reverse it. The Russians offered it. But no, they decide instead to extend this to China as well.
So it does seem like it's more and more heading to a real confrontation. But
Yes.
regarding this, the Chinese reaction to this, I don't think that any of the Western media has reported accurately the ramification of this. What happened is this: there's a thing called the long arm jurisdiction that the U.S. has been doing that all the time. So when the U.S. banned the ASML and the TSMC from
Mm,
selling their equipment and products to China, the reason, U.S. reason is, okay, if you have any products, any parts from the United States or any technology from the United States, you cannot sell to China.
mm,
China flipped it back. China said, if you have anything in your parts that have over 0.1% of the rare earth coming from China, you need my permission. It's not a ban, okay? It's a permission. You need my permission, which essentially is saying, for example, TSMC. TSMC is the one who make all the chips. NVIDIA, Apple, Qualcomm, they don't make their chips.
no.
They design the chips. The chips are made in TSMC. So right now, China has the veto power saying you cannot sell them any chips.
I know.
essentially cut all the chips going to the United States. Now, China hasn't done so. China just saying, I need your permission.
Mm.
Okay. And the same thing with ASML, the Dutch company, because in their lithography machine, they are rare earth elements
Yeah.
coming from, most definitely coming from China, most definitely more than 0.1%.
Mm.
Okay. I think that's where the real panic is. I think the Dutch government panicked, and certainly Trump panicked.
Yeah.
I don't think it has been discussed much in the Western media. They
It
just
hasn't been.
thought, okay, the rare earth coming from China is now under tight control. But no, it's more than that. They are controlling the end products as well.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what is going on right now.
Well, indeed, which is, as you correctly said, exactly what the Americans always do. They always insist that if you use any part of their technology, you have to get their permission. And now again, it's been done to them, and they don't like it, and they get furious about it. I mean, Trump's response, his first post on Truth Social showed how completely shocked
Yeah,
the
it was.
Americans were.
Uh-huh.
And Scott Besson's comments also show how completely shocked
Yes, they
the
were.
Americans are. And you're absolutely right, because I've been reading articles in the media here
Mhm.
that over the course of the last year, 40% of American GDP growth is entirely based upon this speculative bubble on
Mhm.
AI.
Yeah, yeah.
AI depends on chips, which, as you absolutely rightly say, are made basically by the company in Taiwan, or
Mhm.
the Taiwan-based company, and without those chips, there is no AI. Full stop.
Yeah.
You can design them, but without the actual production, you can't make them. And without the rare earths, you can't even make the lithography machines.
Mm.
So the whole thing comes to a complete stop. Now, again, it should never have come to this.
No.
China has never imposed up to now any restrictions on rare
Mhm.
earths whatsoever. It's always been an extremely reliable supplier. Extremely, I mean, it has never been an issue.
Mhm.
I mean, people
Mhm.
have talked about it, but it has never, up to this time, been any sort of issue. It was the West that decided to initiate this trade war. They didn't think through the implications of it. Now they're facing it, and they don't really have an answer. And if they haven't been able to sort out uh, rare earth, not production, but refining of rare earths in 15 years, it's unlikely that they ever will.
No, China hasn't banned
I
anything.
know,
But China
I
just
know,
said, you need to have my permission now.
I know.
But of course, the implication is I can stop at any time. Okay.
Exactly, exactly.
And that's where all the panics, I think, comes in.
Yes.
Like you said, it doesn't have to come to
No,
this point,
no,
right?
no.
The whole thing. And actually, China just released the latest exporting of its rare earth. It's actually slightly increased from last
Yeah,
month.
that's
So the
right.
civilian part is totally fine.
Yeah,
China also developed a very sophisticated tracking system as well. So
yeah,
it's anyway. So the civilian part, it is the military, and then the high tech sensitive part that is now China is have tightening the control.
mm,
But we will see how it goes. And